And talking about another inspiring woman, our first speaker is a faculty at the Department of Biology and leads molecular ecology and technology research at De La Salle University, a recipient of the 2021 Outstanding Asian Science Diplomat Award and one of the 2021's Southeast Asian Women Science Leaders. Her dissertation work has granted her with a Fulbright dissertation grant to the University of Washington, which I am proud to say is the same university I have graduated from. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Chona Abeledo.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Just share my presentation. So it was very interesting for me to see during the icebreaker event earlier that when asked about food and agriculture, a lot of you mentioned farming and also about farms and land. So I guess it's nice for us to start with something on the water because when it comes to food production, it also includes our oceans and our different bodies of water. Because after all, we do eat fish and other seafood as well. So for this afternoon, I am here to talk about farming on water, a very interesting field which is called aquaculture. Now, did you know that there are actually 60 million people in the world who are involved in fishing and aquaculture? That's actually quite a lot. And that 17% of the food from all over the world comes from fisheries and from fishing. And so it is very important for us to learn more about how fishing works, how aquaculture works all over the world. So for my talk this afternoon, I'll be giving you an overview of what aquaculture is and why it's important for us to be able to grow fish and not just catch them from the ocean. We'll also talk about the impact of climate change on fisheries and aquaculture and how we must act today in order to be able to save the fish and be able to make this industry sustainable for the future. We'll also talk about the pollution problem and how this is affecting all our fish friends that are found in the ocean, but how it's also affecting us and our health. And finally, I will end by talking about why aquaculture is awesome and why you should consider studying in this field. Okay, so I used sushi as a theme for my presentation because I love sushi. I personally love eating fish, but sushi is one of my favorite food. Now, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who loves to eat sushi and fish. Now, as the demand for seafood has increased all over the world, technology has made it possible for us to grow food in other areas close to water, such as coastal marine waters and even the open ocean, and not just be dependent on catching fish as to where they are. Now, aquaculture is a method used to produce food and other commercial products while we are trying to restore, protect, and replenish all the wild stocks or the wild populations of fish in nature. And it also helps us rebuild populations of threatened and endangered species. So because of this, aquaculture can provide us food while also giving us an opportunity to protect the environment. Now here, I have for you a quote from Sigmar Gabriel. He was a German policymaker who wanted to make sure that we try to protect the oceans in our pursuit to make sure that nobody becomes hungry all over the world. And what he said is that without sound conservation and management measures, the fisheries industry will become depleted and a basic component of global food security will be lost. What he's trying to say is, if we don't act now, and if we don't act in an environmentally friendly manner, then we might lose all the fish in the world. Now, currently, overall, 80% of the world's fish stocks is reported as fully exploited or overexploited. What this means is we are actually overfishing. And a lot of the fish that we're trying to eat now are disappearing all over the world. And so we have to start changing our behavior so that we can proceed with effective and careful management. Because please take note, 17 to 25% of the food that we're eating comes from aquaculture and fisheries. Now, when we say aquaculture, there are many different ways for us. Oh, what's that? My presentation disappeared. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. I think somebody else tried to present. When it comes to growing fish in the water, there are actually three types of ways that we can grow fish. We have extensive aquaculture, and this is when fishermen and fishers try to grow fish in an environment that is mostly natural. This is when we try to put up fish pens in oceans, in rivers, and in lakes. And this basically means that the environment as to where the fish grows would be equivalent to the natural environment. So the fish, although kept in closed environment so that they don't run away, experience a very natural world. However, because of climate change and limited space, not all types of aquaculture can be made like this. So we also have what we call intensive and semi-intensive aquaculture. And in terms of intensive aquaculture, this is when everything in the environment of the fish is fully controlled. So we control the temperature of the water, we control the acidity of the water, we control the types of microorganisms that are present in the water. So everything that surrounds the fish is completely controlled so that the fish can grow happily and healthily as it is growing up. On the other hand, but the thing with the intensive method is it can be very expensive and it can be very hard to maintain. So between the extensive and the intensive method, you have the halfway point somewhere in the middle called the semi-intensive method. And here, we try to control some of the conditions of the environment, but not all. So there are still some components that are left to the natural environment, but some other parts are controlled to make sure that the fish are not too stressed and that they get all the necessary nutrients that they need in order to grow well and be healthy. However, both the extensive and the semi-intensive methods of aquaculture are being threatened. They are in danger because of climate change. Now, how does climate change affect aquaculture? Well, first, we are experiencing warming of the waters. The waters of our oceans, of our rivers, of our lakes are getting warmer. And because of this, even the fish are feeling the heat. And so some of them are not growing up well. A lot of our fish species are experiencing slow growth, meaning they don't grow as big as they're supposed to be. And sadly, some of them even die young. And when they die young, it means that we lose them, we lose the opportunity to allow them to grow. And this means also in the future, we don't get the opportunity to enjoy them as food. So that's one of the dangers that aquaculture and fisheries is facing. Another is with climate change, the ocean waters are increasingly becoming acidic. And when ocean waters become acidic, what this means is the shells that we find in our clams, in our oysters, in our shrimps, and in our crabs, they slowly become weaker and softer. And so this makes our shellfish, our crabs, our shrimps to become unhealthy. Some of them also die early, and some of them get lost because of the presence of ocean acidification. Over time, because of climate change, because of the warmer waters and the acidic waters, the ocean also experiences less oxygen, meaning there is less dissolved oxygen for our fish to breathe in. And without oxygen, the fish can suffocate, they can slow down their growth and development. And this also means we will have less fish for our food. And finally, with climate change, we will experience stronger typhoons and storms. And whenever there is a typhoon or storm, you will notice that stronger waves crash on our shores. And these waves can destroy the fish pens and all other equipment, all other materials that are set up by our fishers. It can destroy their boats. It can destroy their fishing equipment. And when these things are destroyed, then our fishers would have no opportunity. They would have difficult time to try and catch the fish and try to recover the fish that they are trying to grow. And so all of these things that are related to climate change is hurting our aquaculture industry. Now, when it comes to climate change and taking care of the ocean, we as humans are part of the problem. We are a little bit to blame. Now, according to Enrique Sala, an environmental advocate, he says that the ocean is like a checking account, it's like a bank account, where everybody withdraws, but nobody makes a deposit. What he is trying to tell us is that for the longest time, we have been taking and taking fish from the ocean. We are enjoying this fish, we are eating it, but very few of us have tried to actually help take care of the ocean. In fact, what we are giving back to the ocean instead is pollution. And pollution, especially plastic pollution, is a very big problem for our oceans, especially all the creatures living in it. Now, why is plastic pollution a problem for fish? Well, first, if fish eat the plastics, it's possible that the plastic will stay in their stomach. And once it stays in their stomach, instead of being able to fill up with food, it just fills up with plastic. And the thing is, we cannot get any nutrients from plastic. In fact, we can even get poison from plastic. And so when fish eat the plastic, they slowly get poisoned, and also they don't get the nutrients that they need to survive. Another problem that we have when it comes to plastic is it can wrap around the fish and cause them to suffocate. It can also go into their gills and prevent them from breathing. And when our fish friends start to suffocate, then they will die. And then finally, if the plastic can go around their gills, if the plastic can stop them from breathing, the plastic can also go around different parts of their bodies. And this will prevent them from moving around, which means that if another bigger fish is there to eat them, they will not be able to get away. If they're trapped in plastic and they have to swim away because there is a storm or a typhoon, they also won't be able to go away. And so all of these are just some problems that our fish encounter because of the plastic pollution that we put in the water. But another problem that is literally invisible, meaning we can't see it, is in the form of microplastic. The plastics that go into the ocean over time slowly degrade into teeny tiny pieces. And these teeny tiny pieces are things that we cannot see. And since we cannot see them, even the fish cannot see them. And when the fish cannot see them, they end up eating the microplastics. And the scary thing is, about 74% of fish fillets that you buy in the market, and even 63% of fish livers, were found to contain microplastics. And 99% of cool fish that you also see in the market have at least one microplastic in them. Now, what do we do with fish fillets or even fish liver? We eat them. And when we eat them, it means the microplastics that the fish have eaten, we also eat. And a lot of recent studies have shown that microplastics have been seen in our blood, in our stomachs, and in different parts of our body. And the thing with microplastics, like what I said earlier, is that they can slowly poison you, which means that if our fish are poisoned, we will eventually be poisoned as well. And so, microplastics are a big problem. So far, all of the things that I've been telling you are very sad and very scary. But what can we do to help? So here, we can actually try to save our oceans and save ourselves and save the delicious fish that we also eat. First, we have to try and slow down climate change. So we can actually help slow down climate change by lessening what we call our carbon footprint. Now, carbon footprint is a term that we use to describe the amount of greenhouse gases that we release to the environment. And this is a type of air pollution. So in order for us to slow down climate change, we have to conserve electricity. So for example, today is Earth Hour Day. At 8:30 p.m. later, we can actually close all the lights, turn off all electricity at home for 1 hour, and this can actually help the environment and slow down climate change. We can also start by buying less things. We only buy the things we need, and with this, we lessen the amount of pollution that goes to the environment, and we also help slow down climate change. Okay. Now, when it comes to the microplastic problem, we also say no to the use of single-use plastics. So these are plastic items, plastic wrapping, that we only use once. This also includes plastic straws that they sometimes provide in fast foods or when you buy food from takeout. We say no to the use of them because they are very difficult to recycle, and when they go accidentally to the oceans, these are the ones that actually hurt and kill the fish that are in the water. And then finally, in order for us to help more with our fisheries and aquaculture industry, let us try to buy local fish products. Go to the market and get to know your local fishermen. You will be amazed at the wonderful stories that they can tell you. And the more you know about fisheries and aquaculture, the more you know on how to help them. And if you really do love fish and you want to be more involved in fisheries and aquaculture, or even in the science behind aquaculture, come and study aquaculture because the aquaculture industry needs help. The aquaculture industry needs better technologies so that we can make it more environmentally friendly. The aquaculture industry needs more input, more advice. It needs more science so that we can grow fish better without harming the environment. And I guess at the end of the day, as scientists, as people who want to be part of fisheries and aquaculture, what we dream of is that we create a means, we create a mechanism, we create a way to grow fish in such that you, the younger generation, and those children who will be born in the future will be able to experience fish, see fish, and taste fish in the future so that they can also enjoy these wonderful treats. So we want to protect our fish and our oceans so that the future generations can still enjoy them. And that's it for my discussion on farming on water. Thank you very much for listening to me. And if you want to know more about the science things that I do, I hope you can check out She and Sha. This is my social media page and channel. You can see the links in the slide here. Or if you have any questions about how we do the science that we do in my laboratory, you can also email me in that address below. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Chona. I also love sushi. I think a lot of Japanese people love sushi, so that was a great topic to get your foot into the presentation. And thank you so much. So I knew a lot of plastics and how it affects. I've seen sad videos of turtles and straws being stuck to them, but I didn't know anything about microplastics. So thank you so much for that. And I understand you had a really busy schedule, so I just want to say thank you again for coming to be one of the panelists. And now we have our 5 minutes Q&A. So either raise your hand or we can look through Slido to see if anybody typed in a question. So again, you can definitely verbally ask a question to Dr. Chona, or we will look at Slido. All right, so it seems like the first one is, are bananas really berries? Thank you so much for asking this question. Dr. Chona, would you like to chime in on this?
Hi. Yeah, although bananas are not fish, but bananas definitely are berries. Because berries, if you ask someone who studies plants, which are called botanists, are a unique type of edible fruit. So not all fruits are edible, and they're usually described as juicy on the inside with a thin covering. And banana, in this case, falls within that category. So even though it's not usually called a berry, because when we imagine a berry, it's always a cherry or a blueberry, bananas are actually real berries.
Really? Thank you so much for answering the question, even though it was a little bit out of your specialty.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes, again, Runa, thank you so much for asking the question. Next one is, are fishes more endangered than land animals because of the climate change? Would you please answer that question?
Thank you so much for that question. That's very hard to answer, especially since the danger of climate change is different when you're in the ocean and is different when you're on land. But there are some fish who are more in danger for climate change because can you imagine when you're under the ocean, the water is all around you. And if it starts to warm up, then the warming goes all around you as well. And there are no air conditioning systems in the water. So there is no way for the fish to avoid the warming water. And in this way, yes, they can actually be more in danger because of climate change. So that's a really, really scary thing. So thank you so much for asking that.
Yes. Again, thank you so much. Okay, and we have a comment that says, I learned a lot. Thank you very much. So thank you for whoever that commented on that. And, there's a question for Dr. Chona. How does the sea become acidic?
Oh, well, there is actually a very complex set of chemical reactions, but it is very much related to a gas. We're talking about water. Why is there a gas? But there's a gas called carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide, when it is immersed in water, causes water to become more acidic. And the more carbon dioxide is placed in the water, the more acidic it becomes. It's like, I don't know, do you drink Coca-Cola or Sprite? Um, Coca-Cola and Sprite are acidic because of the bubbles that you feel when you drink them. So the ocean, because of climate change, can eventually end up like that. The more bubbles inside the ocean, the more acidic it becomes.
Thank you so much. So are you suggesting that will the air be acidic too?
Air, because of the large volume, has lesser chances of becoming acidic, but it can also become more acidic with more carbon dioxide.
Thank you so much for answering the question from Slido and my interjected question. I appreciate it. All right, and let's do one more question. So, let's do the top one then. Should we stop using all plastics? What are some alternatives to plastics aside from paper?
Oh, thank you so much for that. Well, I have a fun fact before I answer that question. Did you know that plastic was actually invented to help protect the environment? Because there used to be a time that in order for people to create plastic products, they would hunt down elephants for their tusks and use turtle shells to make all of the combs and other plastics that we have. So the first plastic was actually invented to stop that. So they wanted to help save the environment and they created the plastics. So not all plastics are bad. The plastics that are used to make products that have a very long life, those that you keep at home, those are not so bad because we keep on using them over and over. The plastics that we should stop using are the plastic products that we use only once. So these are the thin wrappings used to wrap products. These are the straws that we use to drink liquids from restaurants and from fast foods. So some of the alternatives that we can do is, for example, instead of using a plastic bag, we try to bring our own reusable bags because paper bags are actually bad for the environment also. So when we use reusable bags, it prevents the use of plastic, and we also end up using something that would lessen our carbon footprint. And apart from that, when you stop using single-use plastics, you lessen microplastics and all of those other problems. So there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are frozen. Oh, there we are. Hello again. We should have put that into our little icebreaker. Are all plastic bad or not? Now we learned something. Thank you so much. So I think that's it for time today. Again, thank you so much for Dr. Chona for her presentation.
Thank you.
Okay,